G'day mate, it's the Doctor here. When it comes to various fandoms, I think the Thomas fandom is generally united. Our favourites may vary, but for the most part we're able to distinguish the good from the bad. However, a new challenger approaches who is set to cause division. Are they out of character, or are they just expressing parts of their personality that we don't get to see often? It kind of feels like we don't know how to handle when a character expresses emotions like frustration, anxiety, anger, etc. And because they're negative emotions, they get labeled as out of character. Kind and enlightened people still have moments where they're doubtful / distasteful of new things. And it's because of those moments where they open their minds to not be swayed by negative thinking that allows them to grow. This can happen at any age and it's never a one and done. That's it! I'm out. If you're a Star Wars fan, then you've seen this song and dance many times. People confusing character regression for progression. Characters are allowed to regress, but it has to align with past events that lead up to their downfall. And even when nicer characters have moments of anger, it should not define them as a new permanent persona. So what about these four? Are they out of character? Were they ever out of character? Let's take a deep dive and find out exactly when a character is acting out of order. Let's start with Emily. Who is she? In Season 7, she was depicted as a soft-spoken engine with a kind heart, and had a tendency to check up on others how they were doing. A very caring engine in a season debut.
Hawk, I'm worried about Henry. You're looking so much better.
I think you'll be helping the new farmer. He needs to deliver his vegetables around the island.
So that's why he looked cross.
I'll go and apologise.
Flash forward to Season 8, and you would think this was Emily's evil sister. Suddenly, she is depicted as a bossy character, an abrasive Sheila who tells others off when they're in the wrong, or they say something she finds to be absurd, or refusing to follow advice. In some ways, it means Emily is able to stand up for herself, which some have defended as saying this bossy persona makes her a stronger character. But her song written for the hit era greatly contradicts who they want Emily to be.
There's no one quite like Emily. Friendly emerald Emily.
Fiddlesticks!
The most common sight people will reference in Season 7 for this transition is in Salty's stormy tale, where Emily is standing up to Thomas and Percy for teasing Salty behind his back. I do not agree this justifies Emily's character regression, and here's why. Emily is telling the little tank engines off because they were shown to be uncaring to Salty, which is what Emily was all about this season. It's what she stood for. And if we factor in another episode, What's the Matter with Henry, I believe this scene is Emily's boiling point. This is the second time Emily is made aware of Thomas and Percy's cheekiness, pointing down other engines but doesn't tell them off in that episode. In a way, that makes Salty's stormy tale a sequel to What's the Matter with Henry. As I said, nicer characters are allowed to show aggression, but it takes a special case where that aggressive side completely overwrites their personality. That's where this next episode comes in. In Season 9's Emily Knows Best, she learns there used to be a queen of Sodor. Emily imagines ordering people around would be fun if she was crowned the next queen. Later she proposes a bit of roleplay to Percy, where she will play the queen and Percy will play the peasant. Though Emily's rule is short-lived, the idea she can order people around could explain her newly developed bossy persona. All this time, Emily has been imagining herself as a queen, wielding the right to tell her subordinates what they should be doing,
I am queen today. I will tell you what to do.
how to act,
Slow down. You are going too fast and bumping your passengers.
and how to think.
Emily decided to help Thomas by telling him what he was doing wrong.
The Season 7 Emily was not completely lost in the hit era. In Season 8's Chickens to School, Emily approaches Thomas with sympathy, offering her assistance to help him out with his workload. Thomas responds with no thanks, and Emily lets him go. She's not pushing herself onto Thomas like in other episodes.
Hello, slow coach. If you weren't a slow coach, The Fat Controller would have given you my job.
In Season 10's Big Strong Henry, Gordon convinces the Fat Controller he is the best choice for a heavy train. With Henry feeling let down, the other engines, including Emily, reassure him he is still big and strong. At the end of the episode, Emily congratulates Henry on helping Gordon out with his mishap with the cows. Emily had every right to tell Gordon off this episode, but instead her attention is drawn towards Henry. This is Season 7 Emily. If we look at these episodes as prequels between Season 7 and 8, they do work out cohesively. I know this makes the timeline sound convoluted, but even the classic era would release episodes out of order, just not as much. If we look at Emily this way, she's not entirely out of character. The pieces are scattered, but there's enough material presented to explain this drastic shift in her character. Whether it is a leading role or a supporting role, Emily's character was consistent throughout the hit era. Regardless if this makes Emily a better or worse character, it does give her an identifiable personality with a set of characteristics unique to her. And in a show where redemption is a common theme, it's actually refreshing to see someone regressing in an unusually reasonable way. The same cannot be said for Edward. Edward's personality is all over the place. Sometimes he is depicted as a frail old engine, other times he seems capable on his own. Sometimes he is a reckless engine, other times he is a responsible engine. Sometimes he is nothing like his classic era persona, and other times he is exactly like his old persona. Okay, that is twice now I've referenced Chickens at School in a positive light. Is this one of the better episodes of a hit era? Edward is one of the most baffling characters during this time because it's hard to get a grasp on what type of character he is supposed to be. I have to believe the culprit behind these inconsistencies is none other than the Writer's Bible. Why is it called a Bible? Couldn't they have called this the Writer's Guide? Do they not know what a Bible is supposed to be? It's not even accurate with its own history. As evident by this description for Stepney, how the Bluebell engine does not carry passengers and has no coaches? There's only one Bible, ma'am, and it don't read like that. Edward's description in this guidebook really doesn't matter because only a small number of these writers actually follow through with this depiction. Edward has always been a tough character to write correctly. He is probably the least flawed character in the main cast, so the writers must have struggled coming up with problems for Edward to overcome that stay true to his character. Consequently, it's why he's rarely seen in a leading role. The worst example of the poor writing around Edward comes from Season 10's Edward Strikes Out. In the classic era, Edward is shown to stand up for the new guys like Boko, Trevor, and even Thumper. Edward is always welcoming to newcomers, and how does he welcome Rocky on his first day?
I don't need your help, sniffed Edward. Newfangled nonsense.
You really are horrid.
It is sacrilege to see Edward, once described as kind and wise, influenced by Gordon, who was the first to be skeptical of a new crane. He is the last character Edward would ever share an opinion with, because half the time he doesn't know what he's bloody on about.
When I was at school, my teacher said that I had a thick skull, but sadly, not thick enough.
Edward grumbles along with his train and was too busy being an old stuck-up to notice the signal had changed. By the time he does, the pipes burst out of the trucks and fall all over the tracks.
Well, John.
Harvey is called in to clear the mess, and this leads to one of the dumbest moments in the entire show.
This is going to take me a very long time, gasped Harvey. The pipes were heavy. He could only lift them one by one.
Let's pretend for a moment the pipes weigh as much as a tank engine. How strong is Edward? In Season 8, Edward the Great, he finds himself in a race against Spencer. It's a tortoise and the hare type of story, but I've listened to this episode carefully and nowhere does it specify Edward is going slow to be mindful with the luggage. Which means he is going slow because he is frail. So how did he go from this to a superpowered freight train that was sent to contestants of the Great Railway Show running back to their home countries?
It just don't add up!
Edward realizes he was wrong, he picks up Rocky, takes him to the crash site, the day is saved, yada yada yada. Wait just a cotton picking minute. Gordon, you know you had cranes help you out in the past, right? What's different about Rocky? You can leave him on a siding, he's not gonna bother you.
That crane might be big, but he has no engine. He can't move unless another engine pulls him. He will only get in.
It's not just Edward's personality that's out of whack, his strength goes up and down like a bloody yo-yo. If you can't identify a character's traits, then how are we meant to understand their pros and cons? What are they best at? What are their limits? What makes them tick? But you know which character has it worse for acting out of character? Thomas. Despite being the title character in his own show, Thomas is one of the least interesting characters among the entire cast because there's a severe lack of consistency with his character. It seems like he becomes the voice of reason in a supporting role, but in a leading role he is an arrogant little bugger that has much to learn. Like learning to remember what he had learned. He's not so much of a character as a device for the studio to tinker with, adjusting his settings to whatever they want him to be. I want to save this for another Thomas topic, but if the characters are not going to learn a lesson by the end of a story, why should the audience take in any moral the studio is trying to push onto us? If we can't relate to these characters, how do they expect their morals to connect with us? But that is another story. Let's wrap this up by answering the question, are these characters out of character? With Emily, no. She was a character who loved helping others when they were down. Then upon observing the abysmal behavior of other characters, and learning Sodor no longer has a monarchy, she became twisted in believing if she had the authority over others, everything would be running like clockwork. How she transitioned into CGI is a different matter. Same goes for Toby and Henry. If we accept the CGI and model era as the same continuity, then they are definitely out of character. But for the era they were represented in, they were consistent. It's not the best portrayal of their characters, but they stuck to their guns for the respective eras these characters were shown in. As for Edward... well, what do you expect? I can say the obvious answer or give you the obvious sarcasm. Let's find out if water is wet. I'm sure the answer to that one will be quite astounding. And that is going to be the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. This is the first major Thomas topic of the year, and if you enjoyed this, there will be a playlist in the description for more videos like this one. If you want to know when my videos are coming out, keep an eye out on my community tab and I'll let you know what's coming to the channel. Maybe one day I'll get to leave my current job and pursue YouTube full time so I can bring these videos to you faster and of higher caliber. Until next time, take care, mates.
So it follows, dissent leads to division, and division leads us to doom.